Welcome to episode 4 of Westmarch Workshop. My name is Archon.
And I'm Neinball.
And today we're going to be talking about the Perma Archon build, amongst other things. So you've been playing Reaper of Souls for a while. You're trying to figure out this whole skill thing, and you still can't figure it out. What's wrong with you, is what some people might say. They're more rude than we are, but we're very understanding of your inability to come up with an awesome build. But do not fret, good sir, or ma'am. That's why we're here. We're here to show you the build you should be using, and tell you why the build you are using is horribad.
Garbage.
Horrible. You do not know what you're doing in this game. I'm just kidding. All jokes aside, though, this build's better than yours. We're going to start off with some news, tell you about our week in gaming, and then we're going to get right to the awesome build of the week. With that being said, the intro is almost done, and I'm just going to keep talking through it, because we paid for this intro, and we have to use all of our money's worth.
We gotta put as much as we can into this thing.
We pay per second for these podcast intros. And
We've been paying it off for years.
Yes. Okay, there we go. Intro over. Welcome to the show, everyone. Let's go over to the chat overlay. That was my best attempt at an improv intro. That's kind of how we roll, I think, on the show. We're not going to write our intros.
Nope, won't do it.
Or
won't
any
do it.
of the show, really, I guess.
Occasionally, we outline the show. That
Yes.
works.
By outline, we mean like we get on Skype 5 minutes before and just talk about what we might talk about, but then who knows what's going to come out once the show starts, right?
Yeah, that's the last couple of ones. They hit us with some news, like 30 minutes before the show starts. So it'd be like, well, I guess we got to cover that now.
Yeah, that's true. And speaking of news, 30 minutes before the show starts, before we start our week in gaming, I'd like to congratulate our friend Jake, who's now the wizard moderator on Diablo fans.
Yes, congratulations.
Yes,
So he's now both the forum MVP for Wizards on the official forums, and now he's also the Wizard moderator over at Diablo fans.
Yeah, really cool guy, Jake. They picked other class moderators who I assume are also equally awesome, but we don't know
I
them,
don't
so.
believe it. How can you be as awesome as Jake?
It's true. It's hard to be that awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what about you, Neinball? How was your week in gaming?
My week in gaming. We're saving the best for last for this one because I'm sure you're going to have tons of stories to tell us.
I'll do my best.
Just continuing to go through, push forward with the Demon Hunter. I'm finally taking my baby steps into Torment Honor, but my first rift that I did in Torment, it was the tile set was the Cathedral, and the very first thing of going through and walking in there is in a champion succubus, and then the armored destroyers come running down from the sky.
Oh, no.
And it just my heart stopped. It's just visions in the fire and reliving it all. But luckily that one I survived.
Nice.
And then never saw another one for the rest of the rift, so that was fine. It was just like one of those ones. It's like it's happening again. But yeah, feeling comfortable with that one. I've been playing a lot of public games this past week with my Demon Hunter, and I know. Yeah, living on the edge. I know a lot of people go through and be like, "You're crazy," especially if you go through a lot of the forums, forum posts that you see. Forums. I'm sure they'll get offended by me calling that over on Reddit. It's a lot of people constantly complaining about public games, and I have to say I guess that's just one of those other things of being a hardcore player, that you still are going to be going into a Torment 1 Rift and you see the guy that has like 15 million toughness and 150,000 damage that is in like all yellows and a blue weapon, and you'd be like, how the hell do you think that you can actually go through and do anything in Torment? You'll still have those, but for the most part, you can't get carried in hardcore, because if you slack too much, you're gonna die, and so you can't make that risk. And I don't want to say that people are going to be better when they play hardcore, but usually it does attract a bit more of the hardcore people that play the game. So you usually have the pool of players in even public games is generally just a little bit better than what you have in softcore. So it's a completely different experience. People it's just kind of a back and forth. If you get into a public game, they're doing bounties, everyone is still split farming. But when you go through and do rifts, you'll see that people tend to stick together as a cohesive unit, and you really, you'll be going through and paying attention. You don't really, take the health orbs. You let them stack up because in case someone gets low on health, which has been happening with the all the lag that people have been experiencing this past week or two, that sometimes you're going to have that one person. I saw one of the people in my games last night die, which is
Oh
it's
wow.
always painful seeing a fellow player die and lose their character. And there's another one that got to like quarter health, and it was just like they're stuck, they're lagging, they're not moving. There's an arcane beam going through them while they're stuck in a desecrator pool, and it's just okay. Run into the health orb. All right, they're okay. Run into the other health orb. Okay, until they either come back or completely lag out. So it's just a different experience playing public games in hardcore than it is in softcore.
Yeah.
You're still going to have quite a bit of herp derp, but nowhere near the same level.
Yeah, that's quite a different experience. And I hate to say it because I play softcore, but it does seem like, from what you've said, that hardcore public games are probably better. Makes
Yeah.
sense. I think on softcore we generally just run away from health orbs if someone's about to die. We assume might as well let them die anyway.
Uh huh.
Save the health orb for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little different
It,
there, I guess.
and then of course the conversations you get to in public games, there is no difference there between hardcore and softcore. I think there was one guy that was talking about his girlfriend became like a born again Christian, and is causing relationship troubles because he wants to get it on, and she's like, I want to wait till marriage. And so definitely some interesting things that you will come across that people are willing to share on the internet.
Wow, yeah. So much openness once you don't have to use your real name, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna have to experience this public games for myself. I have heard that in some hardcore public games, people will try to kill other people's characters. I've heard horror stories of like them on to some noob characters.
That is one thing that you will always take the chance, and generally speaking, you don't really ever port in on another character when you're in a public game. You don't take waypoints into like zones that they're in. If you're not sure, or if you've never played with that particular person before, when you jump in, like when you're going through and you're doing rifts, if they're on level 1, you walk into the rift instead of teleporting to them, just to kind of be on the safe side.
Yeah, good pro tip there. Pro tip. Well, yeah. Do you have anything else in your week?
No, I mean that's pretty much the only thing really Diablo related. Other than that, you know, is if there's any Warhammer players out there, I played my second game of Warhammer with my Tyranids on Saturday, so that's about it.
Oh, in nerd news.
Yeah, in nerd news, super nerd news when you start getting into that.
Yeah. Well,
So, what about you? What's your past week been like?
well, I was in Colorado for most of my past week. As some of you guys know, I took a quick vacation, which is why we had to do last week's show a day early and today's show is a day late. So thank you guys for bearing with me there. But yeah, drove to Colorado. It's a 12-hour drive, so that was interesting, but we made
Mm,
it. Did some cool hikes. We went to Fort Collins, which is apparently the highest microbrewery per capita in the country.
that's
Beer
a claim to fame.
everywhere. Yeah. So they have like Budweiser breweries and New Belgium breweries, and then a bunch of small breweries that you never heard of, and everyone rides bikes there. So we just rode bikes to breweries and drank beer, and that
That
was pretty
What
awesome.
was that like? Because I know I have a couple of friends that go from Florida, which is, sea level, to Colorado during the summer, and when they first get there, they're winded walking up the stairs because of the altitude difference.
Yeah, I didn't notice a difference. Fort Collins is about 5,500 feet up. Um, it's not super high, but yeah, you know what? I usually don't notice difference with altitude change and stuff.
Well, you're so tall already,
I
so
guess yeah, I'm already a good 5,000 feet up just from standing. So
yeah, it's just a step stool up there.
yeah, just walk up the Rockies and there I am. Yeah.
Hmm.
But speaking of the Rockies, I saw my first, I think first professional baseball game. Rockies and Phillies played. And I know nothing about sports. My knowledge of sports is right in line with my knowledge of Diablo lore, and so I was mostly just hanging out and asking what was going on for the majority of that time. But in semi gaming news, while we were in Colorado, there was this place called the Haunted Game Shop, something like that. Coolest idea ever. It was like a coffee shop, but then they had all these board games that they sold in the shop that you could just take off the shelf and play,
Mm-hmm.
which is like my dream because I love board games. But you're always just taking a guess. Is this game going to be good? And we played a game called Zombies, which I really recommend. It was a lot of fun,
Mm-hmm.
where on your turn you put down a tile set of a city, and then zombies spawn in that tile set, and you're trying to escape the city while building it. So every turn someone's building onto the city, it's getting bigger and bigger and more overrun by zombies, and you're trying to get to the helipad to escape. All the combat's done with dice rolls. You have lives and bullets, and yeah, it was a really cool idea for a game.
Yeah, I think I've played a couple different variations of that. Not the one where you like build it as you go, but I played a lot of the ones where you have like the scenario. Like there's one where you have a predetermined scenario, and so you put down the tiles for that scenario, and you have special rules of where the zombies spawn and such.
Huh.
And then other ones where you kind of like you have a board and you shuffle the tiles for the different rooms on the outside. I can't remember the names of any of them, but yes, some of them use dice, some of them don't. They're tons of fun. I love them.
Yeah, it was really cool. So yeah, I bought. We never play tested this. We didn't play test this, I think is the name of the game. Hilarious card game. Some of the cards are just like you win, and yeah, the game is completely broken. I really don't think they play tested it, but it's hilarious. Look into that as well.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, enough about my Colorado trip. Diablo. Before I went to Colorado, saved up a bunch of legendaries for like the week before. So I had like 50 legendaries, and then just today went through and I would them. And we decided we'd use the Book of Cain because we have a few hardcore players in our clan, and we figured we could lag them out bad enough to at least kill a few of them. So figure,
how how many deaths did you get?
unfortunately, none. No one died.
Uh,
Yeah.
Try harder next
So
time.
I know. I thought because when I identify like 3 or 4 items, it lags the game. So I'm like, I had like 34 in my inventory. I'm like, this is gonna just break the servers, I think. But no, a few people even did it with me, but it just had a really big lag spike. And yeah, most of the items weren't anything noticeable or notable. I got a new Thunder Fury, rolled
Oh,
int
nice.
vit. Yeah, bad damage roll, but I re-rolled that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying that over the Shard of Hate, or the Shard of Nerf, I think is the new name of it on the forums.
The shard of now subpar.
Yes, of a pretty good item. Of no longer the go-to best item in the game, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was fully, even though I had the Shard of Hate and I didn't enjoy the fix, I was fully behind it because it was just super OP. Needed
Yeah.
that fix.
Needed it, but it was fun while it lasted.
Yes, yes. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'll use the Shard of Hate or the Thunder Fury, but right now, playing around with the Thunder Fury, got a few other upgrades, and that was about it. That's about it for my week.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, hopefully it'll be a little more eventful next week. I won't be on vacation. We didn't play test this at all. Maybe that's the name of it. I'm not sure. Oh yes, I was in Denver for 420, which for anyone who doesn't know, marijuana you can just buy it there now. You can just walk into a store and buy weed in Denver.
It is now 100% legal.
Yeah, you just walk in and buy it. I had to try it, so I bought some Swedish fish that have THC in them. They did
Mm-hmm.
they did like nothing, but just the experience of being able to go in and being like, "I'll take some weed, please." And like, here you are, money. Okay, I'll leave now. And
Uh,
I didn't actually partake at all on 420, but there were like parties going on all over the city, like billboards for weed parties, and it was a really weird thing to see.
that was pretty much like the place to be in the USA for April 20th.
Yes, that was the place to be, and I did none of it. We just happened to be there because we were seeing the baseball game. But
Yeah. Well, I have a similar story to that kind
yeah,
of.
all right.
I lived in the Netherlands for a little over a year,
Oh
and I
wow.
never went to Amsterdam.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah, that
yeah.
is similar. That's kind of sad.
Uh-huh.
Never got to try any of the coffee shop brownies or anything. Huh?
Nope. Yeah, never did the coffee shops.
I mean, Anne Frank House. That's why you'd go to Amsterdam, right? To see
Oh
the Anne
yeah, of
Frank
course.
House.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Hmm.
obviously. Yeah, what was I
I
thinking?
think that's a brothel, but yeah.
They still call it the Anne Frank house. It's just a brothel now.
Man,
Uh,
if there's someone that didn't go through and make a brothel in Amsterdam called the Anne Frank House
oh,
and just
that's
spell it
horrible.
differently, there's someone that does not have an active imagination.
I don't know what kind of clientele you would attract, but I can't imagine it would be good. Anyways, off of the topic of Anne Frank brothels, I think that probably wraps up our week in gaming.
Hmm.
Maybe we should get into some Diablo news. Thing that I was probably most excited about was the announcement of BlizzCon.
Yes, definitely. That's one of the more recent announcements that we had as far as the news goes, but definitely the most important.
Yeah, see, I think they hadn't said for sure there's gonna be a BlizzCon. I think most of us kind of assumed there would be one, just the way they've been talking about it. But yeah, last year was my first BlizzCon. Was it yours? Had you been before?
Yes, I've been to a couple prior to that. I think I've actually been to every one except the one in 2005.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
wow. You were a veteran. Well, last year was my first one. It was a blast. So I'm definitely gonna try to go this year. I assume that you'll be attending as well.
Yeah, definitely plan to. The big question always is, of course, tickets. Can you get the tickets?
Can you spam that button fast enough?
Yep,
Is your
and
ping low enough?
yeah, now they're changing it to where it's going through Eventbrite instead of their normal server. And from what I hear, there's no queuing system, so it's literally who can check out the fastest. It's no longer who can hit refresh the fastest.
That makes sense. That's yeah. It seems like a better system. I
Hmm.
wonder. I wonder if you can still buy 4 tickets if you get in.
I believe the limit is 4 per household right now.
Well, so if you got 3 friends, you just need one of you to get in.
Yeah,
G2G.
so that is the strategy that I've used in years past is going through and doing the you get a bunch of people, you even get friends that have no interest in going, but they're just there to go through and help you out, you know. And the more people you have spamming the button, the increases your chances of getting those tickets.
There you go. So I think they go on sale March 7th. Was that right? I just had it up.
March, I think it's March. It's either March
Oh,
7th and
May.
March
Sorry.
9th.
Why are
Or
we? Why
yeah,
am
sorry, yeah, May.
I? My bad.
Um,
May
or the
7th. It's
5th.
May 7th and May 10th are the two
Oh, okay,
days.
there you go.
So yeah, try on May 7th. If you don't get it, you can try again on May 10th. Every once in a while, they'll do like a third or fourth day. I guess it depends on how many extra tickets they have after that.
Generally, the only times that they have like the follow-ups with that is because what is it? Because they do the same thing for the charity benefit dinner, or it's like the charity benefit dinner in the past was a random draw. You'd actually like just throw your name in, and then they would pick from there. And some people would then decline and not actually buy the tickets, and so they would do another set of drawings.
All right. All right. Yeah, and the benefit dinner, if you have some money and want to benefit the Children's Hospital of Orange County,
Hmm.
is $750. So if you got some
Yeah, the
cash
price.
lying around.
Yeah, the prices have gone up this year, both for the regular tickets and the benefit dinner.
Yeah, but of course, benefiting a good cause there. Children's
That it
hospitals.
definitely is.
Yeah. We got a lot of other news this week as well. We should probably get through this pretty quickly because we have so much to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it,
Oh,
in non-news, players made a lot of fuss about a Blade of Prophecy nerf, which never existed. Yeah.
yes. That was. No, you want to go through and start it off?
Yeah, if you follow the forums at all, you probably see a lot of people complaining that Blade of Prophecy is only proccing 2 extra explosions on Condemn, which is different than what the tooltip says. And this came across to the players as a ninja nerf. They must have snuck this in at some point. It's not doing what it says it's doing. It's only doing 2 procs now. Well, it turns out it was always doing 2 procs. Unless, of course, the developers are wrong. But they went back and looked through the logs and they said, we've never made any changes to it. This is how it's always been working. So it's probably that it just took that long for players to realize that that's why it was working.
Yeah, people are actually starting to dig in and calculate the damage, and also it's really hard to tell because I actually have the Blade of Prophecy on my Crusader when I was playing him around a little bit. I didn't put too much testing into it because I quickly switched over to the Demon Hunter, and the explosion itself goes off so quick. You're hard to tell what how many explosions actually triggered off of the other ones.
Oh, yeah. I've yet to use it, but that makes sense. A lot of my items, I can just not figure out how much they're proccing. Thunder Fury is a
Yeah,
good example, I guess.
and once people start getting more comfortable and going into the tier 6 and things like that, they're not going to one shot mobs. They're actually seeing how much damage it's doing and can then make an accurate assessment of what's going on.
Yeah, good call. A lot of people have been complaining that certain elemental types are just mandatory for certain classes. Probably the best example is fire barbs. All barbs kind of
Hmm.
feel like they have to be fire. I guess mostly because of the whirlwind rune. Is that the big one?
There's also the what is it? The earthquake leap build. That one's fire.
Hmm. So a lot of complaints about that on the forums, and the devs are saying they're thinking about switching around, or actually, I think they said they're planning on switching around the elemental types of a lot of the different skills.
Yeah, not just for barbarians, but some of the other classes to try and make the skills, actually work better, for the classes to give them more of a reason to want to branch out into the other elemental types, as well as to use the other skills themselves. If they, combo these changes with say the 2.1, when they already said that they will be adding in, some new items into the game, that would help them actually, kind of correct some of the disparity there is between the different items that are available for the different elemental types. Because like if you're trying to base yourself purely off of physical skills, there's not really anything or special procs or abilities from legendaries that you can get to leverage that. Just flat out damage increases, as opposed to where if you go fire, well, you can get a cinder coat and make your skills, cost a ridiculously amount less, while at the same time buffing their damage.
Yeah, it seems like the cinder coat is really the reason why fire is so big right now. I mean, there's a lot of other pieces for fire, but yeah, no other element type has anything even close to something like that.
I guess there is, lightning also does have quite a good number of legendaries that help buff its damage up. With what's the weapon that makes your enemies the lightning rod?
Ah, yes, the fulminator.
Yeah, there you go, the fulminator. And another, they've got a decent amount of items that give the lightning increased lightning damage and such. So there's some builds that revolve around lightning still.
Yeah, you can get a lot of extra damage for lightning and cold and
Hmm.
poison, but it's hard to get any like real build enabling skills.
Yeah.
Sorry, stats, I guess. Like, yeah, cluster arrow seems to be really dependent on that 30% reduction, as well as the barb builds. And yeah, I mean, if you want that cost reduction, then you need to go fire. I think a huge cooldown reduction or something for another element type, or just
Hmm.
something comparable to that stat on Cinder Coat for other
Yeah.
element types.
I also, wouldn't mind if they did, something more like the Fulminator, where it's not just a flat damage increase, but something that adds a little bit of flavor to it, or a different way of doing a damage increase. Like say if you have the something that increases poison damage by whenever you deal poison damage, it puts a stacking dot on top of them that does 20% of the damage you did, over 5 seconds or something along those lines.
Yeah,
You know, so
yeah.
it,
So, sorry,
go ahead.
I
No.
think those are creative and it's a little bit more exciting than just adds this much damage, but
Hmm.
effectively it seems like it's still just adding flat damage.
At the end of the day, it is. At the end of the day, it is. You can always go with a direct copy of like the Fulminator buff. That it is a damage increase, but it does it by triggering another proc or ability that gives you that increase that you won't really see in your character sheet.
Yeah, I think if that proc, like if the Fulminator proc, could proc other things that are proc by lightning skills, like for example, paralysis has a chance to stun on lightning skills. If the
Hmm.
Fulminator attack also had that chance to stun, or could give life on hit or something, then I think that would be pretty cool because you're effectively also adding more procs to your build. And I really don't understand why. I guess the proction weapons, except for I think two exceptions I can think of, don't get bonuses from your plus to elemental damage, and can't proc anything on them on their own.
Yeah, and when you have that level of disparity, it kind of feels like, well, those few items that do benefit from the items are probably bugged and will be corrected.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's weird of them. One of them is Shard of Hate, and they just
Hmm.
fixed two bugs of Shard of Hate, and it looks like it's still getting bonuses from plus to lightning damage. Kind of
Yeah.
weird after they do a pass through on Shard of Hate, but I actually haven't tested it myself. It was mostly just through talking with people.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, look.
Speaking of item fixes and things like that, they also said that they'll be buffing the mojos and sources soon. You know, they
Yes.
they talked about some of the issues that they've had with the wizard and witch doctor offhands, and some of the things that they're doing with which to correct them. And this started before Reaper launched. This was actually with the patch 2.0.4 release, and the crafted legendary sources, all the crafted legendary offhands were bugged. They did more damage, or I guess it's not that they were bugged. They were doing more damage than dropped legendaries, um, and part of that came from, apparently there was a bug with legendary shields for Crusaders, to where like some of their block values were a bit too low, and so when they corrected that issue, it also impacted the other legendary offhands for the other classes. And so it's just interesting how all those different values are somehow intertwined in the code in the background.
Yeah, I wonder what variable they share or whatever it is that's getting multiplied by everything. Now, before anyone gets too excited rather, I believe the buff is just about a 6% damage buff on the offhands.
It's something along those lines. It's even 6% kind of sounds like it's going to be significant, but that's not going to make that big of a difference, because it's just that bonus damage from the offhand that then gets factored and multiplied by everything else. There's a lot of other things that will be less than 6% total DPS increase for your character.
Yeah, but overall, the legendary offhands you get should be better than crafted ones or rares of the same quality. Yeah, let's see. We had a few other things also. Do you want to talk about Crusaders killing themselves still?
Yes, yes. It's one of the things that we've talked about in the past couple of podcasts is some of the hot fixes that they've done is they fixed skills that allowed Crusaders to kill themselves. Everything from it was going on a kind of a theme there. You had the Blessed Shield Shattering Throw, and then you had the Consecrate Shattered Ground. Both actually, the Shattered Ground did damage to the Crusader in addition to enemies, and the Shattered Throw had a chance that it would reflect back and hit the Crusader in addition to the enemies when it was bouncing around. And then now it's apparently there's the bug with the Iron Skin reflective skin rune, which basically makes it while Iron Skin is up, you have I think it's you do 200% bonus thorns damage, or you just reflect 200% of the damage they do to you to other enemies. That can actually then, when combined with the laws of justice, protect the innocent, which makes it to where 20% of the damage that your allies takes gets redirected to you. There's some sort of bug in there where it reflects the thorns damage back at you from the Iron Skin. And this isn't something new. It's apparently something that's been around for a while, but it's just now getting noticed, and is, you know, something that, try to refrain from using those skills for the time being in unison. And I'm not sure if they actually even have to be on the same person. If I've heard some reports that if someone else is using the Iron Skin reflective skin, and you have Protect the Innocent when you pop it, and they use Iron Skin at the same time, you'll still have that damage reflected back onto you. So someone else can kill you. So just be careful.
Wow, yeah. Well, poor Crusaders. They just get skill after skill murdering them on hardcore.
Yeah.
I guess
Like,
softcore too, but who cares about those softcore players, right?
yeah, that's just a repair bill in 10 seconds. Staring at your corpse.
Yeah. Well, BlizzPro put together a pretty cool article yesterday. Is that yesterday? Hot
Mhm.
Streak posted
Yep.
it, looks like.
Yeah, I believe it was yesterday.
And this is just a list. I think Nevalist has been working on putting this list together for a while now, and they finally look. It looks like it's complete. A list of all the items you cannot get from gambling, and that's of course because
Hmm.
there are many more items that you can get from gambling than that you can't get from gambling. But yeah, it shows all of the items that are torment only, or all the sets, I should say, as well as the
Hmm.
legendary potions, follower legendaries, and then the items that can only come from caches.
Yep. There's been some discussion on that one because there's a couple items that it says are torment only, and so that can't be dropped, or you can't find from Kadala, but they also people have found them in non-torment games, like the loot
Hmm.
socks.
Interesting.
Hmm.
I had
The
not.
rest of them, the rest of them are actual, like set pieces and very powerful. Not only just the class sets, but you've got the focus and restraint, the dual ring set, which seems to be just ridiculously powerful, as well as the Slander and Little Rogue set, which is apparently those are the rarest items in the entire game, according to Travis Day.
I have seen neither of them, so far
Hmm.
it appears to be true. My anecdotal evidence proves that to be true, I think.
There we have it. You presented evidence. I'm willing to believe it.
I haven't found it yet. Must be true. But yeah, that's on Diablo.blizzpro.com, rather.
There we go.
It's called Torment Only Legendaries. That's a good little reference for you guys. And I'll try to post that in the description of the podcast as well so you guys don't miss out on it.
Hmm.
And that's about all the news that I had. Was there anything that we didn't mention that you wanted to throw in there?
Oh yeah, there's two other things
All
that
right.
I just want to talk about. You can also find a link to this one on the Diablo.blizzpro.com. What was it last week? Michael Goth, who is the voice of Deckard Cain, did a live Q&A on the Elite Lounge Live over on Twitch, and it is like 2 hours of pure and total awesomeness. He talks about, of course, not just his experiences, doing the voice of Deckard Cain over the years for Diablo, but also, he was the voice of, what was it, Mr. Gopher on Winnie the Pooh, in addition to a whole bunch of other things. Tassadar from StarCraft and Brood War,
Hmm.
and he also did a bunch of voice or like viewer requests, and so he did a bunch of like random things, and he ended the Q&A with a line from Duke Nukem, which it's obviously PG-13 on this one, but just imagine Deckard Cain going and saying, "I'll rip off your head and shit down your neck." It was just that alone is worth watching the entire 2 hours. Just hearing Deckard Cain go through and say that is amazing. I wish I could put that as like my ringtone.
That is hilarious.
Hmm.
Oh my god.
Uh,
And you said
and like
people
I
can
said,
find that on Diablo.blizzpro.com as well?
yep, we have a link to the Twitch archive for the video, so you can go through and watch it in all of its glory. It's pretty awesome. And then the final thing that I have is just this last Monday, of course, myself being a huge lore nerd. Blizzard just published a new Diablo 3 novella. It's digital only. You can find it on the Amazon Kindle store, called Morbid. That's the name of the main character. It's a short story. It's only like 64 pages. The novella itself runs $2. We have a link to it, as well as a brief description on the BlizzPro site, and we'll be going through, and I'll be publishing a review here, hopefully by the end of the week, about the novella. And it's really nice. And it's one of the things I really enjoyed about most of the Diablo novels, besides the two most recent ones, the Storm of Light and the Order, is that they're not stories about like the main characters of the series. They're stories that help flesh out Sanctuary as a whole and give kind of the Diablo universe, an overall tone and some substance to it. That it's really nice, so you don't follow like the epic grand adventures of Tyrael, Deckard Cain, and the Nephilim or the Haradrim, but it's just your average Joe Schmo, though, even though it's a bunch of like Crusaders, Druids, Necromancers, so they're a little bit above average, but they're not Nephilim, so they don't exactly are able to go through and kill everything that comes up against them, and actually the struggles that they faced, and just how dangerous a world like Sanctuary is for the normal people. They're really, it's a really good read, and it's quick and short. You can finish it in just an hour or two, depending upon how quickly you read.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I might even read that.
Yes, it is worth it.
Oh, yeah. Sounds like it. Well, what do you think? Should we jump right into the build, or should we go through the items of the week first? We could...
Yeah, we can go ahead. Let's people went through and took all the time going and submitting their items of the week, so we can go ahead and do that.
All right. I think we're going to use a Neinball screen here. We set up this screen share, so hopefully it works all right.
Yeah, let's hope this works. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Looking good. Yeah, we can see all of your pornographic material over your screen right now.
Yep. Also known as Wizardess. Wizard.
Oh yeah, that's what that is.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, but I mean, she does wear some rather revealing clothing there.
Yeah, why not? That's
and also her name, and my wizard's name is Azula Matata, which is a wonderful phrase.
Very nice.
Yep. Let me see here. Let's go ahead and pull up some of those items. The first one that we're going to go through is actually this one was submitted on Twitter by it was Malthiel Johnny Max 630.
Yeah.
I think it was the person they went through. How does that look on the stream? This is
looks good enough.
This is like a selfie of a screenshot, so forgive the
yes.
quality on the item there.
The item actually took this picture. That's
yeah. Yep.
For anyone who doesn't know, before we get into it, this is our brand new section. It's the first time we're doing this. You guys can submit any items that you think are especially cool, whether they rolled really well, or maybe they rolled really bad, or just something funny about them, and then we're going to show them and talk about them a little bit.
Yep. Well, I go into full screen. Are you still catching everything?
Great right now.
Okay, all right. So he went through and submitted. This is Archfiend arrows. This is the crafted quiver that you can find in the world. And one of the nice things that you can go through and see about this one is just the sheer amount of dexterity that he had roll on this item. So it's something that he was really proud of. Near perfect critical hit chance, very high on the elite damage, which is the two of the properties that it will always roll. And he just lucked out and got dexterity, vitality, and probably one of the best secondary stats in the game, max discipline, which is amazing. It's actually on some Demon Hunter items, it's worth re-rolling your secondary stat to get max discipline. And of course, going through, moving on, this item here, I'm going to go over to the other window so I can actually see the name of the person that submitted it. There we go. This one was submitted by Daniel. This is what he's calling best Windforced NA, the best Windforced on the server. As you can see, it itself, rolled some pretty high damage. I've not seen a better wind force than this, so I can't disagree. Though it didn't roll, the actual increased damage as one of the mods. So it's definitely one thing I would do is I would re-roll the attack speed into damage percentage, and then 5 million gold later, when you keep getting life on hit, you will give up.
Yeah, there's not much else to re-roll on that.
Yep. It's definitely a beautiful one, though. I have something to compete with that coming up that I submitted myself.
Oh, all right. I think it's cheating, but I'll go. I'm cool with it.
Yep. This next one here is actually taken from the profile of from Leviathan. He's actually our site manager for the Hearthstone site over at BlizzPro, and he's playing a Crusader. And he wanted to go through and show this off, the Defender of Westmarch, because it went through and rolled 5 primary stats. And then the only secondary stat was, of course, the legendary affix. So it's just, for him is godly, and that it rolled unfortunately the base block chance rolled low. So even though he got a really good roll on the block chance itself, on the affix, it still is only 25% chance. So you can still get that, I believe, like up to 30 for the block chance for the Crusader shields. Which is just really powerful. It's something that he's been using on his Crusader. He's a hardcore player as well, and he's absolutely in love with it. It's just a great thing. With the increased crit damage they rolled on it and the massive amount of survivability from the vitality and life percentage. Though I probably, if it were me, he obviously used his reroll on the crit chance. Those would be a little bit better if they had all resist as opposed to the vitality or the life percent.
Do you know what it had before? Did it have crit chance already? He just rolled it higher?
I do not know. I do not know. He did not say.
Yeah.
And then moving on, this one here is a beautiful little item that was submitted. Oh, sorry. Oops, going back. I got this wrong. This one was submitted by Daniel, and the Wind Force was submitted by Ken.
Right.
Yeah, this one is just a beautiful example of a low-level item, the Clipper. It drops off of, I'm trying to remember, it's like a chance to drop off of a rare mob in Act 2, I believe, in Dolgor Oasis or in one of the sewers. And, it itself, base is like a level 12, level 20 item, as you can see by the very low rolls on the stats themselves.
Yeah.
So it's always going to roll. These properties here are tied to its level, which explains the damage. But of course,
so anyone who can't see the video, if you're just listening to this, it's a level 70 item, but it has 24 damage.
Yes, and 44 intellect. Yeah, so it's a beautiful little one, and then you can see the one random property that it did roll is the 592. Lovely little gem of some of the things that you have with the the item scaling system. So in Reaper of Souls it will scale the item up to your level, but this one's hard coded its damage at the base level that the item is. But hey, it sells for 2,500 gold.
There you go. Do you think this was done for some reason, or do you think this is just a mistake? Why do you think we have these level 70s rolling so low?
I think that this is just, it's just that those three primary affixes are hard-coded. They never were updated to scale up to level 70.
So they just missed it as they were sweeping through the items, you think?
Pretty much. I would like to see, what is it? There's the Splintered Ore that drops off of one of the rare mobs in story mode in Wortham, that spawns before the Berserker pack. That he has a chance at spawning, it's just a wooden ore is what it is. I'd like to see that one, or even just the what is it? I guess the Herogic Hamburger and the Spectrum. I don't know if they scale or not. I've not seen any of those at level 70, whether they actually fix them or not.
Yeah, I think they actually do just scale to whatever level you get them on now. I haven't seen them yet, so it'd be nice if someone submitted one for verification. But from what I've heard, yeah, they're just normal items now. They look kind of cool, but they're just rolling at whatever level you find them at.
The best thing to transmog as is running around with 2 Herogic Hamburgers.
Why not?
Why not?
Gotta eat while you're in Sanctuary.
Exactly. And then finally, this is not an item that I myself found, but in one of the public games that I was running, someone had this drop for them. It's a one-handed crossbow that rolled 2.7k damage. So it not only got a godly roll on its the primary damage affix, it then rolled 9% damage and an attack speed on top of that in order to have a one-handed with the 2700 damage, which is just insane for a one-hander, no matter how you slice it. Obviously you want to re-roll that attack speed for socket. That's going to drop the damage some, but even then, this is one of the best one-handed weapons that I've ever seen. period. Not even just a crossbow in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah, that's some insane damage. It'd be hard to justify using another weapon even without a powerful legendary affix.
Hmm.
Some high weapon
So.
damage there. Yeah, some people are saying you don't get the transmog on the Roderick Hamburger drop.
You
So
don't?
that's what
No.
that is the opinion of one Twitch viewer. So assuming that Versus is correct, you don't.
Uh huh.
But prove us wrong.
Yeah. If that is the case, I am a very sad panda. I'm a very sad panda.
I guess they don't want everyone running around with hamburgers.
I guess not. And that is pretty much it for the items that we had submitted this week. Thank you very much to everyone that went through and submitted some items in there. I almost forgot to actually give credit. The person that had that item dropped is he's in the clan XD, and his name is Zexel, Zelyx. So props to you. I hope you're watching the show.
All right, yeah. And if you guys want to submit any of your items, just tweet them to us or at us at Archon the Wizard or at Nineball Gamer, or email them to us at westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com.
Yeah, you can go through, send us on over. In addition to anything else, I'm actually just somewhat disappointed no one submitted in a cracked sash. So,
Still
mhm.
LF cracked sash.
Yes.
All right. Well, I've been slacking this week, and luckily Nineball's working his ass off here because he came up with a cool build to show you guys for the class that I play. And I'm gonna chip in as much as I can, but it's a build that I have not actually tried out yet in Reaper of Souls. I've only read it about a little bit.
Yeah. This one is one that we talked about a lot, pretty extensively last week. Is the permanent Archon build, and that is one that's incredibly popular with wizards. That's also why I'm on my screen here. I'm playing around with my level 61 wizard. Obviously, I'm not playing the Archon build, but I figured it'd be thematic. Let's see, where did I put the tab with the build? Did I close that? I'd be so bad if I did. Oh, nope, there we go.
There you go.
I had it over here.
Is your wizard softcore or hardcore?
Hardcore. Come on now.
What? Yeah. What else is there, right?
So yeah. I think this is my third wizard. Not in Reaper of Souls, but this is my third wizard overall. I've lost a couple of wizards. But yeah, this is what we've got up on the screen right now is just kind of like the basic build.
Yeah, so assuming you're going Archon, you're probably going to be stacking bonus to arcane damage, and of course if you're going Perma Archon, you'd be stacking cooldown reduction as well.
Yeah, the build itself is relatively simple. You kind of your two damage skills that you use outside of Archon kind of are personal preference. Since you're going to be stacking a lot of arcane damage for the Archon build itself, Disintegrate Entropy is a very popular one, as is, I believe, which is the arcane orb that people use?
Obliterate?
Obliterate? Okay. And then the rest is all about just passively buffing your damage, since you can't use any of these skills while in Archon form, and the whole basis is to be in Archon form almost the entire time. So it's things like Pinpoint Barrier, Force Weapon, Spark Flint, and then your passive skills. What's currently set up right now is for a softcore character. It's all about throwing as much damage as you possibly can in there. Glass Cannon, Unwavering Will, Audacity are great passive skills that will benefit your damage, and then because this build revolves around so much cooldown reduction that you just can't get away from evocation. The 20% cooldown, it helps you reach that point where you can stay in almost permanent Archon in only a few seconds outside of actually being in Archon form.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Glass Cannon and Evocation you definitely want on the build. Unwavering Will is obviously going to be better on higher difficulties than on lower difficulties because you're not going to be standing still quite as long on lower difficulties. Audacity I would test a bit because 15 yards is actually like really close. It's like almost melee range. There's not a ton else you might put there, but Temporal Flux will slow enemies, so if enemies are getting to you too quickly, or Blur as well if you need the defense instead. But
Hmm.
If you don't need the defense, then I think that's probably right. Unwavering Will and Audacity probably the best way to go, even if they're not giving you much.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're playing hardcore, obviously you want to replace. You'd definitely glass cannon would be the first one you swap out with unstable anomaly, which pretty much every hardcore wizard runs. It gives you your one get out of jail free card every 60 seconds, so it allows you that when you die, you don't actually die. Refills you back up to the 45% health and knocks all the enemies back. So it's really great if you get pinned into a corner. It will knock them back so you can get out of there and hopefully run away. And then you kind of evocation is the one that you always want to take, whether you want to whichever other passive you want to use for your flavor of damage. And generally you do want to go through and use the newly buff blur for the flat 17% reduced damage taken.
Yeah, looks like a pretty sexy build right there.
Mm-hmm. And then, as we said, there's nothing really behind the build. It's, kind of throw on passive damage, Archon, and you're good to go. What really makes this build shine, and is the only real limiting factor, is its dependency on items. And we'll go through and show some of them. The first, and probably one of the most important, is your Gloves of Worship. This is, allows your shrine effects to last for 10 minutes. If you're able to go through and get the empowered shrine ability, that gives you 50% cooldown reduction right off the bat. And that will make your life incredibly easier reaching that point, so that way you can, keep the permanent Archon form going. And since it lasts for 10 minutes, chances are if you're running an extended Rift game, you're going to be coming across at least one empowered shrine every 10 minutes. And if you don't, you're unlucky. I'm sorry, can't really help you on that one.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, but this makes your life incredibly easy. As far as being able to stack the amount of cooldown reduction that's necessary to get the the going. You still, of course, obviously have to throw on a lot more. It stacks multiplicatively, so it's kind of has what is it? What's the word that I'm looking for?
Diminishing returns, or
Thank you. Yeah, there we go. Diminishing returns. So the more you stack, the less each individual part gives you to the whole. So you have to stack even more. And Gloves of Worship are actually, it's a very, very, sexy item for almost anyone anyways. And it's farmable to a certain extent. It is a reward from the Act 2 bounties. So if you want to get Gloves of Worship, go through and farm Act 2 bounties and just re-roll those games, even if it's not one of the bonus ones.
why not? And you could always add on Act 4 if you want to. It's probably the fastest act, and it can drop any of the cash rewards.
That it can. It just is one additional chance you have at going through and rolling it. And of course, no Archon build itself would be complete without going with a Veer's set, which is the Archon set. It's a 4-piece set bonus, makes it to where when you activate Archon, you gain all of the rune effects. So it doesn't actually matter which Archon you use, which rune you use for the Archon skill, you gain the benefit of all of them. It's a 4-piece set and requires all 4 pieces to actually activate the bonus. So if you are using the Gloves of Worship along with it, you do also have to get the Ring of Royal Grandeur.
Yeah, and at that point, you're just choosing your favorite color, I guess. Just what color do you want your beam to be? And then there's your choice for Archon Rune.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to pick your skill based on personal preference of the aesthetics of the color.
Yeah, I'd go green myself. It's like different. I don't know.
It's very legendary, setish.
Yeah, there you go. Very nice.
Very nice, very nice. And I mean that really is it. It's a very simplistic build. It just has a very heavy dependency upon items in order to really make shine. So it's something that requires a little bit more farming time. It is something that you are going to put some effort into to collect all of the items for. But the payoff, obviously, if you've seen anyone that's posted videos or streaming with it, the build is amazingly powerful, and it just amplifies. You stack up a bunch of damage, and you go in and you kill things. They fall over. They fall over dead. You cast the spells that make the bad peoples fall down.
Yeah, definitely one of the most popular builds right now. There's a wand that I think would go well with that, and hopefully someone in chat remembers the name of it, but it can increase your disintegrate damage by up to 25%, I believe. and embarrassed I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, if you can't get a lot of cooldown reduction, you're not staying in Archon a lot of the time. Get a lot of disintegrate damage, and you can still do a lot of damage while your Archon's on cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And again, the reason why you're using the disintegrate is because you're using mainly arcane damage for Archon itself to buff your damage up that way, and disintegrate is just a very powerful spell. Matches up well with Audacity, so that way you can, or not Audacity, Unwavering Will. Sorry, I don't play Wizard. Forgive me. And so it's a skill that meshes well with Archon, since you're already stacking arcane damage as your flavor of choice. It's just a very powerful skill itself that is also arcane.
Indeed. Indeed. Slorax Madness. I believe that is right. I believe that's the one that I was referring to. I haven't found one yet, so I still haven't even tried out this build, but I have a lot of arcane gear, so I think if I get a little bit more Veers set or maybe a Slorax Madness, I'll try out an arcane build.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there was one thing you had mentioned about replacing Vit or life percent that we didn't touch on before that I'd like to just mention real briefly. Nineball pointed out last week that whenever possible, you should take all res and armor over life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you're getting the same amount of toughness, or even if you're getting a little bit more toughness from life, all res and armor are still usually better because they're also amplifying your healing. And Wyatt Cheng made a good blue post about this week, basically explaining that exact phenomenon that, if you have 5 million toughness and a bunch of armor and all res, or let's say you have 5 million toughness with 1 million HP versus 5 million toughness and 100,000 HP, you're going to heal the same amount of toughness much quicker with the lower amount of life.
Mm-hmm.
And Wyatt Cheng said that they're considering changing healing to toughness healed per second instead of life healed per second.
Yeah, to kind of make it to where you do have a little bit more choice and flexibility of whether you want to fully, go more vitality or more, resistance or armor buff.
Yeah, so at that point, armor and all res would show bonuses to healing the same way that like attack speed will show bonuses to healing right now if you already have life on hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really hope they do that because honestly, just that change would make it really clear what you're getting from armor and all res versus life percent.
Yeah, because the toughness stat it's got a lot of things going on. It's not something that is just sitting there by itself, because toughness is only one half of your survivability. It also plays directly into your healing stat, and it's the correlation between the two of them that is what actually keeps your character alive. Increasing your life percentage or your vitality just increases your overall hit point pool, but doesn't reduce the amount of damage that you're taking. So when you increase your toughness and then increase the difficulty, you're taking a lot more damage now, and that toughness doesn't really, all that it gives you is it prevents you from getting one shot. It gives you a little bit more buffer, but it doesn't help you sustain like resistance or armor does.
Now, a lot of people learning this, I think, have gotten a little confused, as I learned during my stream today. Just because armor and all res is a better way to get toughness, doesn't at all mean that life and life percent are useless. In fact, a lot of times, or I shouldn't say a lot of times, in rare occasions, having life or life percent could be better than armor and all res. If you're getting 2 to 3 times the health pool from life percent, and you don't need the extra healing, a lot of times it's still worth it to take life percent. Just if it's close, take the armor and all res.
Yeah, it is definitely one of those ones. You're going to get into situations that you're going to be taking a lot more damage than what you're healing, and having that extra little bit of a buffer of the hit points in order to take that, kind of like that burst damage is definitely, it has its uses. There are definitely going to be situations where having the more hit points is going to allow you to last through those ones that you can't actually heal through.
Yeah. So hopefully they make the change that it's toughness per second, and then our character sheets will be a little bit more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Do we have some feedback from the viewers we need to go over before we wrap this up?
Yeah. Going through and looking at it, we got quite a good number of emails this past week.
Thank you guys. And again, if you guys want to email any feedback, we'd love it. Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Let me go through and start off. Thimbledorf asked if we could introduce ourselves, since apparently on our first episode we just kind of said our names and didn't really give any backgrounds of like who we were, or, because he says that he or she says that they've never heard of us before, and so would just like to know more about it, since they enjoy the podcast and would like to know more about the hosts.
Yes, good call. I guess we just assume that everyone has heard about us, because we're kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
But yeah, I guess there are a couple people out there that haven't heard about us. We should probably say a little bit more. I was gonna say, if you want to stop sharing screen, I'll go back into chat overlay. I tried to do it, and then I was like, wait, this looks horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you wanted, there's something else you wanted to share.
No, they can go through and stare at my character. That's fine.
Yeah, it's up to you. You can go.
Mm-hmm.
We can stay this way. Or... All right. Well, I'll read the next feedback. We got a new glide.
Oh, hold on. Before we go on to the next feedback, we should actually go forward with the actual introductions.
We should just add them at the end. Outroductions.
Yeah, outros. We can go through and do that.
Yeah, that's good. Good call.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go ahead.
All right. Obviously, my name is Neinball. If you were listening since the beginning of the podcast, you would know that. I've been kind of active in the Diablo community for a few years now. I've been doing a podcast over on Ink Gamers, the Diablo podcast. I think this is 3 years now that we've been doing the podcast over there, and just also this past March of last year when BlizzPro launched, I've been a writer over there, helping cover a lot of the Diablo news since Reaper of Souls launched, and heading up the Diablo.BlizzPro section of the website with Diablo coverage. I probably don't play as much as the people listening to and viewing the podcast here, but I definitely spend a lot of time going through and researching the game and trying to figure out what's the best possible way of doing things, even if I might still pass up on that in order to play what I think is going to be a better way or a funner way of playing. And then my only other thing, my claim to fame, is just I'm a huge lore junkie. I read all of the books. I like listening to everything in the game, going to all the different places, listening to all the little journal entries and such, and just taking in kind of the flavor and the ambiance of the Diablo universe. So if you have any lore questions or anything like that, I'm your guy.
And I'm not your guy. Stay away from me if you want any accurate information on lore. So that's why I like to team up with Neinball here, is because I can just rely on him for all the story stuff, and I can just play the game and grind. So I guess I focus a little bit more on efficiency than on fun, as we've talked about in previous episodes. I've been streaming Diablo since about the time it launched, and I was making YouTube videos a bit before that. And I wrote like 2 articles for BlizzPro, and then realized it's way more work writing articles than I thought it was, and I'm just too lazy. So I've mostly streamed and made YouTube videos, and that's about all there is to me. I play softcore, unlike Neinball here, hardcore Neinball.
Mm-hmm. Hardcore Neinball. That sounds like it's going places.
Yeah, hardcore Neinball. That's if you ever get into extracurricular activities outside of video games.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, hopefully those introductions were explanatory enough, and maybe we can include a short version of that in future episodes.
Yeah. Well, no, we've said it once. That's it. That's all you're getting from us.
We'll just reference to the end of this episode anytime someone asks from now on.
If you ever want to know who we are, watch all of episode 4. That's what you'll get.
It's somewhere in there. Just look for it. He wanted a viable monk build that uses physical type skills. We'll have to think of that as a future challenge, I suppose.
Yeah, that's actually going back to one of the things we were, talking about, is there's not a lot out there. We'd have to go and look at the actual monk skills that are primary physical damage based, because you can still stack on a bunch of physical damage through items, but there's nothing really that makes physical damage stand out. There's nothing really, no cool items that, like the Cinder Coat or the Fulminator or anything like that. But we'll definitely see what we can put together for you. A quick build that focuses just on physical damage for monk skills.
Yeah. Well, this new question, this next question, I think is for Neinball here. It's from New Glide, and he wants to know what good paper doll stats are a measure for getting into hardcore on his Crusader.
For a Crusader, both on my Crusader and my Demon Hunter. Like I guess on the Crusader, I was only looking at around about 6 million toughness before I felt confident going into Torment, and I wanted a little bit more on the Demon Hunter because he doesn't have the passive damage reduction or just the built-in survivability of the Crusader. Um, from there, you probably want over 500k damage. You probably want something closer to around 700k damage, just so that way you don't hold people back when you're going through and running rifts. Your mileage will vary. Like the before mentioned nerfed Blade of Prophecy. Well, I guess not nerfed. The wrong terminology. The always working as intended Blade of Prophecy. If you have that one, you can actually get into Torment a little bit sooner by stacking just a little bit of cooldown reduction, because it just does so much damage that you can go through and obliterate regular mobs and even elite packs, because you're hitting for a couple thousand weapon damage, every 10 seconds or so with that skill. It really, the amount of damage that you need just really does come down to your item selections. If you're not running any good legendaries that affect any of your skills, somewhere between 500 and 700,000 damage is good. Obviously, if you're only running 500,000 damage, you can do it solo. If you have 6 to 7 million toughness, it's a good place that you can handle a lot on your own. And then if you're running public games, you want a little bit more damage, just so that way you don't slow the other players down, just so that way you're considerate for the other people that you play with.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, I have nothing to add. So, listen to Neinball. He knows what he's talking about.
Hmm.
I don't
Or
know.
at least I claim to.
It's good enough for me. I think you probably know more about the next question than I do. Maybe you should take that.
Okay. Iru from Game Thesis On asks. He had a question about how the Paragon point setup just doesn't make a lot of sense, and what he means by that. If I can actually pull up his email here. Let me see. That he goes through and says that there are just as many defensive abilities with high cooldowns as there are offensive abilities. And so he's not sure why cooldown reduction is in the offensive tab. And then contrast to that, you have area damage, which is purely offensive in nature, is in the utilities tab. And he thinks that shouldn't those two switch spots thematically? And I think, part of that is definitely true, looking at it from an overall standpoint, where area damage is offensive while cooldown reduction is kind of ambiguous. But I want to go out on a limb there and answer that this is more of a design decision, that it's giving you, even though it is the offensive tab and the utility tab, that they're kind of breaking it up and giving you multiple options with what you want to do. So it's not just always pure offensive, and it gives you a little bit of leeway that in the utility tab you can choose a little bit offensive or a little bit defensive with the life on hit, or like the pure utility with the gold find. And then the offensive one with the cooldown reduction, you can help it benefit some of your other skills that might not be purely offensive. It's just all about giving you choices and not one direct go-to skill in that particular tab.
Yeah, I agree. I think from a design perspective, they obviously didn't want to give you all the stats to choose from. I mean, the reason they broke it into categories is because they want you to be somewhat guided in your decision making. They don't want you to be able to go full glass cannon or full cooldown reduction. They need some balance there just to avoid any kind of exploits in the Paragon system. My guess would be that the name of the categories was an afterthought, that they first came up with, okay, what four skills can we let people choose between that's not going to break the game? Give players the ability to choose offensive over defensive a little bit while still forcing them to have a base amount of defense and a base amount of offense. And utility was probably just the extras tab. Well, none of these stats really go together, but it works well for balancing. Let's call it utility because it fits better than
Mm-hmm.
any other word, maybe.
It's a catch-all. It's a
Yeah.
catch-all.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely a good point. very valid as far as the category names go, but there's probably some very mathematical complex reasons why it works well the way it is right now.
Hmm.
Or not, or maybe they just guessed. Maybe they just threw them up there and figured it would work. Who knows?
They threw darts at the dartboard.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how they made the game, right? They just get drunk and make wild guesses and see how it works out.
Hmm.
Seems about right. All right. Well, moving on. Now that we've given you a horrible answer. Okay. Bet Dacrix says we apologize too much. Bet Dacrix, I'm so sorry.
I am definitely
I'm
sorry.
sorry. We apologize. We do apologize too much. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, we will
We
do. We will do better. We'll improve on
sorry.
it. But until then, sorry.
Sorry. I would like to know more info about how clans work and rants about how much he loves the death of the auction house. I'm guessing he doesn't want to hear rants, but rather he was ranting.
Yeah, he definitely he went on a small exposition there, just about how much that he loves the new Loot 2.0, where you actually are rewarded for playing the game more through items and not actually having to go through the auction house. So he is absolutely reveling in the improved loot drops and actually finding useful items instead of having to try and scavenge gold to buy something, from another player. And
Well, I am definitely on the same side, Bet Dacrix.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I know from reading the forums that a lot of players are, ready to destroy their computers because the auction house is gone.
Mhm.
There's definitely two sides of that coin, but I think those of us who've put a lot of time into the game generally are in favor of the removal of the auction house.
Yeah, and I mean I I agree. To a certain extent, I definitely think that it is better that people are able to find their own items. Though I'm still very sad that it also meant the removal of all trading. Period. I would definitely have liked to have seen some form of trading still live on in the game. Um, and it's just kind of like one of those things because you can get a very bad run of RNG. As we were just talking about him, earlier, JH. He went a couple of weeks before he even got his first piece of the Archon set, which he was just gunning for. And the first piece that he got was actually in one of those few limited trading scenarios that you have is someone else in his clan was running a game with him, and they had their second pair of gloves of the Archon set drop, and so they traded it to him. And so, he didn't even find his own. I believe he is running the full set now, but it took him a very long time to get it all together. And that's just, that downside of no trading is you are completely limited by RNG, and you have no way of really mitigating it.
Yeah, and then that makes sense. I think in the grand scope of things, a year from now, a few weeks is going to seem like no time at all. It seems like a lot right now. And I don't think anyone's like against trading. I think we all enjoy aspects of trading and would like to trade from time to time, but I think when you realize what trading brings to the game, and especially for those who want to play efficiently, it really means that. I mean, look back to where the auction when we had the auction house in the game. The people who were the most geared weren't the people who played the most or who were the best at
Uh,
playing. They're the ones who knew how to flip items on the auction house the best.
yep, and auction house simulator. I,
Yeah,
I, even though I do, I'm a big advocate for putting trading back in the game. That doesn't mean that I want to see the auction house come back, and the negative aspects that it had on the game definitely did not outweigh the benefits that it brought.
yeah. I felt like it seemed unfair to me when they announced BOA because I've been wanting the system they have right now for a while. I know a lot of people, you
You're to
included.
blame.
Yes, I'm to blame. I've been wanting this forever, and I know Wyatt Chang has been wanting this forever. So we always geeked out about it, I never thought it would happen because I knew most
Hmm.
of the players were against it. So when it happened, I was like, for me, just for me, like it felt like it was they knew, and so I felt guilty, but it was a guilty pleasure, I guess. Um, yeah, I was a little iffy about them making it so you couldn't even trade gold, but the fact that there's just no botters in the game now, I mean, practically no botters, is really something special.
Yeah, I think The only real things out there is just people are doing what is it? Paying for leveling.
Yeah. Some people are
And
selling
that,
like really good rare items, but that probably won't last very long.
yeah, and there was for a while there. I don't know if it still exists. There was a market. There was still a market for flawless square gems because of the achievement, which I myself had never actually gotten. The like stars in the sky. It's actually specifically for making radiant star gems, and
Huh.
it's not feasibly possible to get any longer in Reaper of Souls because your base gem is the Maquis, and so there were people that were going through and they were still spending money after the auction house was shut down to get those lower quality gems just so they could go through and finish off this achievement.
Man, people and their achievements.
Uh huh.
I guess I just won't get it. Um, but yeah, definitely less spotters now, and that's a nice relief. All right, well we've gone way over again, so I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Sorry. Forgive us.
But I think that's all. Did you have anything else before we wrap up?
No, I think that is it.
All right, well, please keep sending us your feedback. Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com. Tweet us at Archon the Wizard and at Neinball Gamer. We'll continue to show items of the week and use your feedback as well as challenge ideas in future episodes. Please tune in next week and every week for the History of Time. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, there is one thing I just remembered that not to interrupt you in the outro.
It's okay, you got like 20 seconds.
We forgot Theorycraft Thursdays.
Oh yes, we wanted to mention that Blizzard totally stole our idea.
Yes,
Kind of.
totally.
And yeah, Nevertheless just started Theorycraft Thursdays. So we'll tell you the good builds on Wednesday, and then they'll try to do the same thing on Thursdays.
Yeah, then they'll copy us on Thursdays, and because they're Blizzard, they'll get more viewers.
Yeah.
Wham.
Well, we'll see what we can do about that.
Uh huh. We came up with the idea first.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you
All
next
right.
week.
Take it easy, everyone.